Greetings, Dr. Steffi here. Are you an entrepreneur who has built your business with grit and vision? And you are now at a spot where you have a team, you're probably somewhere around a multi-million dollar business, and yet there are still some pressing questions about delegating what I call the tough tasks. So, what I'm going to do in this broadcast is to talk to you about the pros and cons of delegating tough tasks, and I promise you to give you some proven strategies with which you can overcome the cons and do this successfully. So, let's go. And of course, this is something that we all tackle and that we all deal with. So I speak from experience here. So, what is a tough task? It's something that I define as a task that you do not dare to delegate because it requires deep knowledge and experience. And it's kind of hard to put your arms around that knowledge and pass it on. So, that's the problem. Here's an example. Prospecting and serving your most important clients often is scary to hand off, isn't it? Because there is so much on the line, your reputation, money, etc. A second example, let's say you are in the business of creating sophisticated software, then your software developers might not be very familiar with the workflow and needs of your customers, you may not feel confident to send them out to establish the specifications for that software. You may end up doing that yourself. Another example is just in general, any task that requires deep knowledge, experience, and even wisdom that you have gained over the course of years or most likely even decades. So, what tasks can you think of? Take a moment to think about that. So now I'm going to talk to you first about the 10 pros for delegating and then the 10 cons for delegating tough tasks. So let's go. The biggest pro, of course, is it frees up time if you can delegate tough tasks. And you can use that for higher level responsibilities and also for getting your life back on track, getting your life back basically for family or for innovation or fishing or hunting or woodworking or whatever floats your boat, so to speak. And then let's talk about your team. It enhances team skills, employee growth, which of course is one of the factors that keeps people actually happy to work for you and with you. And then teamwork, collaboration, being able to distribute the workload more evenly. All of these are pros. And then trust within the team. If you say, hey, I trust you to establish these specifications or handle the big clients, that says a lot. I trust you. And then the speed of task completion, because you have only so much bandwidth. And sooner or later, that's where I hear business owners say, I'm stuck in the $5 million rut or the $6 million rut or the $10 million rut. Anyway, they're out of bandwidth. And delegating the tough tasks is really what is hindering them from growing further. Also, you can boost morale by empowering your team members, and you may even discover skills in someone that you didn't know they had, or maybe at least the propensity to learn something new, and then encourages innovation and new perspectives. So, a big yay to that. But what about the cons? Are there cons? Of course, there are, because if there weren't, then everyone would be doing it and we wouldn't even be talking about the subject. So, the cons. There is the potential for miscommunication, misunderstanding. There's all kinds of risk that the task might be mishandled, done incorrectly, or at least not done as well as you would. And then you have to provide some training or guidance, and that takes time and resources. And of course, it can lead to the feeling of overwhelmed for the person getting the task. It can lead, of course, to the feeling of you feeling overwhelmed, having to give that guidance. And if someone thinks, oh, he or she is giving me all the tasks that he or she doesn't feel like taking care of themselves, then there might be resentment. All right, some more. There might be a loss of control. Maybe feedback loops can get a bit convoluted or lengthy. There could be inconsistency in results. You may experience a slowdown in progress if the delegate is just not as experienced, which of course is going to happen in the beginning. And then there's also the risk that you underestimate the complexity of the task for the delegate. And that is, of course, because you have that deep knowledge. You can't even fathom what information someone needs in order to do what you almost do in your sleep because you're so good at it and you've done it for so long. So the question is, having looked at the pros, I feel like I want to do it, but having looked at the cons, I feel like I'm stuck. Am I going to be stuck forever doing these tough tasks? And I'd say, no, absolutely. You cannot, must not let that happen because it will cost you dearly, right? So let's look at it. There's slow or slower growth. There is, in fact, there's a cap on that growth because of your bandwidth. There are constant time pressures, aren't there? And that means you don't have enough time for innovation, strategic thinking, what's next. You suffer, your family suffers. There's even the danger of burnout. And yeah, that's no fun, no fun. And you can never sell or pass on your company. Did you know that 85% of companies are in that particular pickle? 85% of companies cannot be sold. And it's because they cannot delegate the tough tasks. That's really the root problem. Okay, so now that we're clear we have to solve this problem, how do we do that? Well, how do you delegate the tough tasks the right way? So clearly there's no way around developing some training systems, but I invite you to do it step by step. I recently was in Nepal and I was, having a great time, but it was beautiful and everything. But then I came to this just endless staircase. It was steep and there were just, it seemed like thousands of steps, like from my feet all the way to the horizon. The only way that you can tackle something overwhelming like this is one step at a time. And that's what I learned right then and there because I was like, well, can I do it? Well, I have to do it. And it's the same here. I mean, if you don't want to, limit the growth of your company or, just really devote your company only to your business or never be able to sell it, you have to tackle the staircase, but only one step at a time. So then the training has to be engaging. And multimedia is easier than ever. Give real world examples. You can possibly even gamify it, but don't do that right away. Do that over time. Start small, and most important of all, get started. Okay, there is also the need to address different learning styles, and you can use videos and text and interactive aspects, basically what I said before, multimedia. And also, I recommend you make it modular because with that, it's going to be so much easier to update aspects as that will happen. And then consider making it central and trackable. Who has actually undergone what training and how far along are they stuck somewhere? You can do that very easily with a learning management system. There are many options now, and many of them are quite powerful and actually very affordable. For example, Lifter LMS is what I use most of the time. And then it's so important to get feedback from the team early and often. That also creates buy-in. And speaking of buy-in, you need to build a knowledge sharing success culture. All right. With that, I want to ask you, which task will you address first? And I just want to encourage you, you can do this. You really can. And think of all the benefits that it will have. And you know what? One of my clients, for example, saw the benefit of doing this, just taking these initial steps as early as 6 weeks from the point where they took the first step. And this is possible. And you have to kind of lay your perfectionism a little bit to the side and, have the courage to get started, I invite you to come to my free virtual Q&A. We have that now every Wednesday at noon Central Time, and we talk about, how can you share knowledge that's so deep in your brain that you don't even recognize all of it. Some of it is in your unconscious mind. And we'll also talk about the power of AI and how to make smart use of it, and even how to use it for that mining of that unconscious competence that you have, so that you can delegate those tough tasks, so that you can grow your company, sell it someday, and get your life back. So I'll see you at the free virtual Q&A. I put the link underneath, and drop me a line. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Ciao.